Good day, everyone. So at this point, we shall begin with another discussion in environmental science, particularly talking about the world biomes. So if we go back to our discussion about the levels of the biological organization, we could actually understand that we have started our discussion from single organisms or species, and then from a single species you can create population, and from a population, from a group of population, you create community, and from a community, kapag pinagsama-sama mga community, you can create ecosystem, and from that ecosystem you can create a biome. Okay, so a biome is basically a collection of different ecosystem. So um, if we try to look on these pictures, okay, so we have here a desert in Africa and a rainforest in Australia. So what is the most obvious difference between the two places, diba? So when it comes to its physical environment, you can easily differentiate because the desert, walang mga puno, mainit. Kapag naman sa rainforest, of course, mapuno, malamig ang panahon. So, what causes these two places to be different? Bakit? Ano yung cause niya? So, basically, the cost of the cost of the difference between these two places is because of the climate condition. So take note that a climate is an average weather in an area over a long period of time, and whereas weather is a day-to-day explanation. And weather and climate are described in terms of the factors such as the temperature, of course, and the temperature and the precipitation. Okay, and in addition to that, the climate of a particular location depends on its latitude. When we say latitude, it's the distance from the equator, and of course the altitude, the distance above the sea level. So of course, kapag ka malapit ka sa equator, mas mainit because you are near to the sun, di ba? Syempre, kapag naman we are pertaining to the altitude or the distance above the sea level, if you are near the bodies of ocean, of course, medyo mas iba ang climate doon than kapag mas malayo ka sa ocean. Okay? So we have here two sides of the mountain. So we have the windward side and the leeward side. And if we try to look on the windward side of an object, so like a mountain or an island, it is the side facing the direction from which the wind is coming. Okay, so it is the side where moist air is forced to rise, cool, and often leads to precipitation and making it relative weather. So, of course, kapag may precipitation, mas may mga mataas ang humidity, mas basa, parang dito, mas basa ang surroundings. Kapag may basa or may water, there is a possibility na mas maraming mga plants na magpropagate. So we have also here the leeward side. So the leeward side is the opposite of the windward side, wherein it is sheltered from the prevailing wind. Okay, it is sheltered from the prevailing wind, and it is typically drier because the air having lost moisture on the windward side descends and warm up already. So it results to a reduced precipitation, creating a rain shadow effect. Okay, this rain shadow effect has something to do with the presence of the vegetation as well as the animals that will live there. And those are something that is to be considered when we are pertaining to the biomes. Okay, so what is biomes? So a biome is an area of the planet that can be classified according to the plants and animals that live in it. So take note that temperature, soil, and the amount of the light and water help determine what life exists in a biome. And a biome is different from an ecosystem. As I've mentioned earlier, a biome is a collection of the different ecosystem. So an ecosystem is an interaction of living and non-living things in an environment. Diba? Going back to our previous discussion, yung log at saka yung presence ng mga fungi and animals there, it is already a type of ecosystem because there is already an interaction of the biotic and abiotic component of the ecosystem. Diba? So a biome is a specific geographic area notable for a species living there, and a biome can be made up of many ecosystem. Take note of that. So take note, class, that there are two fundamental classifications of biome. We have the terrestrial biome and of course the aquatic biome. So under terrestrial biome, we have the desert, the forest, the grassland, and the tundra. And of course, we also have here under the aquatic biomes, we have the freshwater or the freshwater biome, and of course the saltwater biome pertaining to the sea and oceans, or particularly the marine. Okay, so as we can see in the distribution of biomes around the world, so makikita natin that this part is the equator. Okay, so if a location is near the equator, you can see that there is a tropical rainforest. Mas madami yung tropical rainforest, as well as the temperate forest. So kung makikita nyo yung apple green dito ng mga kulay, these are mga temperate rainforest. And of course, sa part nito, we have yung yellow, we have that grassland. And dito naman is yung desert, which is in the Middle East. Okay, Middle East region na makikita natin dito sa may sa part ng Saudi Arabia, as well as the Egypt and Israel. And also we have here sa North America, dito sa particular region na to. Okay, if I'm not mistaken, that is Mexico. And of course, we also have taiga and tundra. So kapag tundra, these location are near the North Pole. Okay, and of course, the taiga. So the tundra and taiga, parang similar lang sila, but they have different characteristics because of the presence of plants and animals thriving there. And now let's talk about the terrestrial biome. Now, when we say terrestrial biome, latitudinal patterns of climate over the Earth's surface is latitudinal patterns of biome distribution. Okay, so when we say latitudinal patterns, we are pertaining to the location of the terrestrial biome near the equator. Okay, so kung makikita nyo dito, this is the equator. And kapag makikita nyo, makikita mo yung distribution ng mga biomes around the world. And most terrestrial biomes are named for major physical and climatic features, or particularly the predominant vegetation. So, katulad nga ng sinabi ko kanina, if a plant and animals thrive there, of course, maaring tawaging ibang biome iyon. And the species composition of any biome differs from location to location. Like for example, sa desert, ano nga ba yung mga animals na nagtatribe sa desert? We have cactus, di ba? So we have also the camel, o di ba? So sa Pilipinas, sa mga tropical rainforest, walang camel because ang camel adapted lang sa place na mainit, okay? Sa desert region. And take note, class, that human activity has radically altered the natural patterns of the periodic physical disturbances, causing the unbalance nature of the biomes. And of course, humans have altered much of the Earth's surface, replacing original biomes with urban and agricultural ones. Totoo yan, because of the Industrial Revolution. Okay? And now let's talk the first terrestrial biome. We have the tropical rainforest or tropical forest. And of course, kapag sinabi nating tropical forest, it is found closely to the equator. So, tropical rainforests receive constant rain amount of rainfall from 200 to 400 centimeter annually. Okay, annually. So, ibig sabihin, maraming amount ng water ang na ipupunta dito sa tropical rainforest. And in tropical dry forest naman, meron tayong tinatawag na tropical dry forest. The precipitation is highly seasonal. Ibig sabihin, may season na uulan, may season na walang ulan. Okay? In both, air temperatures range between 25 degrees Celsius and 29 degrees Celsius year-round. And take note that tropical forests are stratified and competition for light is intense. Since there is a great amount of water. Okay? Ang water kasi, it is used by plants in order to propagate, in order to photosynthesize. Now, since maraming amount ng water, and of course, meron tinatawag na competition. They are competing for light. So, kapag ang isang plant is halimbawa nakatira sa tropical rainforest, talagang parang kulang yung ma-absorb niyang amount ng sunlight kasi maraming mga naglalakihang mga puno na nagtatribe sa forest natin. And animal diversity is higher in tropical forest than in any other terrestrial biomes because why? Bakit? Kung makikita nyo, mas mataas or mas maraming makikitang food ang mga animals kapag nagtitribe sila sa forest. So, kapag mas maraming food resources, dun sila pupunta. Okay? Mas malaki yung interaction. Okay? And dito naman, of course, may mga plants pa rin na nagtatribe. And yun nga lang, mas marami pa din ang nagtatribe sa tropical rainforest than in dry forest. Okay? So now, tropical rainforest is characterized by high temperature and moist habitat. So, may mga, di ba, kahit kung pupunta ka sa mabundok na lugar, mamaya uulan, okay? So, the season there is wet and dry season. And take note that winter is absent, okay? That's why here in the Philippines, wala tayong winter season. Ang meron lang sa atin is wet and dry season, di ba? And the length of the day is 12 hours because, di ba, it is situated near the equator. And kung makikita natin yung Earth natin, it is tilted. So, talagang na-tilt na siya. So, talagang mas malapit or mas malaki yung amount or yung mas mahabang oras ang ginugugol or na oras ang mas mahabang oras ang time para makapag-absorb or masubject ito sa sunlight. Okay? And take note that precipitation is evenly distributed throughout the year with annually rainfall exceeding 2,000 millimeter per year. Okay? So that is tropical rainforest. And take note that there is a highest animal diversity and highest plant diversity. And dito natin matatagpuan yung mga plant katulad ng Rafflesia, okay? The Rafflesia is the biggest flower na matatagpuan lang sa rainforest. We have the Venus flytrap, and of course we have here a lot of yung mga plants, okay, na nagtatribe dito, okay? I'm not particular, I'm not certain about this plant, pero at least nandito siya nagtatribe. Okay, we also have here highest animal diversity. Maraming mga animals, 'di ba? Take a look at this jaguar, 'di ba? Para siyang naka-camouflage. Kung hindi mo siya makikita, baka mamaya sakmalin ka na lang anytime. So, take note that soil is nutrient poor and acidic. And of course, the decomposition of products are immediately taken up by plant extensive root system. Because of course, maraming mga plants. Kapag maraming mga plants, ang nutrient doon is poor. Kasi nga, maraming mga gumagamit ng nutrient dun sa soil, di ba? And that leads to a high acidity of the soil. And of course, agad-agad, syempre, kapag konti ang nutrient ng soil, yung merong immediate absorption of plants, okay? Na wherein kapag kasi hindi yan i-absorb ng plants, maaaring siya yung mamatay. So, uso dito ang competition, di ba? Competition of light, competition of nutrients, and competition of and other competition, okay? So, take note that in tropical rainforest, sunlight is a limiting factor. Okay? Because yung mga malalaking puno na nasi-shed niya, or ang tawag in the other term is parang yung sunlight is hindi nakakarating dun sa my ground or sa may forest floor, okay? And canopy in tropical forest is a multi-layered and continuous, allowing little light penetration. So take note that yun nga, dahil sa tawag nito, dahil merong tinatawag na dahil konti lang nagpe-penetrate na light, nagkakaroon ng tinatawag nating multi-layered parts of the forest, wherein parang ito yung parang tinatawag na stratified na siya. So, stratified wherein meron mga iba't ibang layers. We have the emergent layer, we have the canopy, the understory, and the forest floor. And kapag sinabi nating emergent layer, dito nakatira yung mga birds, bats, and butterflies. Kapag naman dito sa may canopy, you can find animals such as toucans, yung mga monkeys, and of course, dito sa may understory, dito yung mga snake, and of course, frogs and other animals living in the understory or sa may lower branches. And of course, dito naman is, dito mo makikita yung mga jaguars, yung mga microorganisms na nag-decompose ng plants, and of course, other plants or other shrubs, okay? Yung shrubs level natin. So, that is the layers or the stratified layer of the tropical rainforest. And, of course, dito naman meron tayong dry forest. So, take note kapag dry forest, short dry period is very wet tropical region. So, dito, may ability pa rin na mag-grow yung plants, but in a short period of time, because as I've mentioned earlier, the rainfall here is seasonal. And take note that more than a half of the tropical forest have already been destroyed because of the so-called deforestation, and of course other activity made by humans. Now, let's move on to the desert. So take note that desert is an ecosystem that forms due to low level of rainfall. It receives its year. So take note, low level of rainfall, ha. So ang basis po natin sa pag-identify ng biome is the availability of the rainfall. Okay? And desert have low and high variable rainfall, generally less than 30 cubic meter per year. Okay? Hindi yan centimeter, cubic meter pala yan. So, temperature varies greatly seasonally and daily. So, if it happens na napunta kayo sa Middle East, particularly in Dubai or sa Saudi Arabia, so, di ba, mangilan-ngilan lamang yung, or hindi masyadong maulan doon. And ang mga ginagawa ng tao doon is parang gumagawa sila ng ng parang synthetic rainfall, wherein naglalagay sila ng salt sa taas. Tapos yung salt, yun yung mag-absorb or magko-condense ng water na afterwards, yun yung magiging rainfall nila. Okay? So, take note class that uh, there are many deserts around the world, going from extremely hot climates such as Sahara and freezing climate. And not all deserts are hot. And believe it, not Antarctica is and believe it that Antarctica is a desert. Okay? So take note, class, that all deserts are extremely hostile, and some animals over million years have adapted to living in dangerous environments. So kapag sinabi natin kasing desert, it is an extreme environment, parang hot, mainit. So kapag sinabi natin desert, okay, mababa yung rainfall, okay? Hindi masyadong maulan. Okay? So kapag hindi masyadong maulan, of course, maaring ang sabihin natin na ang place na yon is a desert. And sa Antarctica, hindi masyadong maulan. Okay? Malamig ang panahon. It is also extreme environment. So that's why parang the Antarctica is also called a desert. And how deserts are how are desert classified? So we have here the cold desert and hot desert. And take note that deserts are classified on how much rainfall, okay? How much rainfall the area receives per year. So it has something to do with the rainfall. Take note of that, the rainfall. So it receives under 254 millimeter per year, and it is classified a desert. So kapag halimbawa yung lugar ninyo is naka-receive lang ng 254 or under 254 millimeter per year, maaring maklasify na siya as a desert because yun nga, mababa ang chance na na umulan. And yun nga, meron tayong two types of desert. We have the hot and cold desert. Okay, so sa cold desert, the average annual rainfall is less than 250 millimeter, and the temperature is around 21 to 26 degrees Celsius. And it is winter. Syempre kapag winter, it is negative 2 degrees Celsius to 4 degrees Celsius. Imagine that. So mas lalamig pa siya kapag winter. And of course, it is very salty, and of course, precipitation is mainly snow. Okay? So, next, we also have here the hot desert. So, during the day, temperature usually average at 38 degrees Celsius, and of course, sa 7 degrees Celsius at night. That's why sa desert malamig ang panahon kapag kagabi. Okay? So, the annual rainfall there is less than 250 millimeter, and of course, the soil type is salty as the minerals never washed away. Okay, so desert has something to do with the storage of minerals in our earth. Parang sila yung ating storage, wherein dito kasi hindi nawawash out yung mga minerals na dapat sana mapunta sa ocean. Di ba meron tayong tinatawag na weathering. Sa weathering na yun, mawawash yung mga minerals papunta sa ocean, and then kapag napunta sa ocean, babalik ulit siya sa mga organisms and magsa-cycle siya. Yung ating nutrient cycle. Okay? So, they are extremely hot during the day and they are extremely cold at night. O, diba? So, that is hot desert. And of course, sa desert, hindi mawawala yan ang mga cactus, okay? Desert vegetation is usually sparse and includes succulents such as cacti and deeply rooted shrubs. Okay? Bakit deeply rooted shrub? Kasi syempre kapag shallow lang or superficial or mababaw lang yung mga roots ng mga plants na to, maaari silang hindi mag-survive kasi yung availability of water is nasa loob ng lupa. Okay? Kailangan nilang i-reach yon. Okay? And they have a thick stem, and the vegetation does not grow tall. Okay? Because of the low availability of water. And the roots extend up to 2 meters to collect water. Yun nga yung sinasabi ko kanina. So, kapag hindi sila mag-extend ng 2 meters, maaaring hindi sila mag-survive. Diba? So, that is the vegetation. So, we have here animals Many desert animals are nocturnal, so they can avoid the heat. And of course, kailangan nila maging nocturnal kasi kapag sa araw sila gagalaw or maghahanap ng pagkain, maaari silang mamatay. So, kailangan nilang maging nocturnal para at least, syempre, ikaw ba naman, lalabas ka tuwing maaraw, syempre, kawawa ka sa labas. Okay? Iitim ka na nga, papangit ka pa. Parang ganun lang din yung mga animals sa desert. So, mas gusto nilang lumalabas kapag kagabi dahil mas malamig at mas madali nilang mas madali silang makakakuha ng kanilang food. And desert organisms display adaptation to allow them to resist and survive desiccation. So, kapag desiccation ang sinasabi natin, desiccation is, of course, a process wherein there is no parang walang tubig, okay? Desiccated. Ibig sabihin, they can survive in a desiccated environment. Ibig sabihin, they can survive in a no water environment. Parang ganon. So, desert animals have already adapted to this kind of environment. Okay? So, take note that through their adaptation, okay, nung nakapag-adapt sila sa ganitong klaseng environment, dun na nagkaroon ng evolutionary process wherein naggrow na yung nagkaroon na ng evolution ng kanilang skin. Okay? Naging thick na yung mga skin nila to preserve water. So, kapag hindi magiging thick yung skin kasi nila, of course, maaaring evaporate yung water sa kanilang katawan, and kapag nag-evaporate, syempre maglo-lose sila ng water. And some animals can bury themselves to protect them from strong heat, and of course, it also serve as their defense mechanisms as well. Kasi yung ibang mga plants, or yung ibang mga animals, of course, nagbobore sila sa loob nagbobore sila para at least, parang nag-aantay lang sila ng mga bibiktima. Okay, as their food. And animals are nocturnal and hide under the bushes during weather. So we have here the desert hedgehog, o diba? Yung hedgehog naman na ito is parang syempre ang kanyang habitat is sa mga plants, okay? Sa mga bushes, doon siya nag-i-stay kasi hindi siya maaaring parang hindi siya maaaring mag-burrow, okay? So, hindi siya pwedeng pumunta sa lalim ng magtago sa lupa kasi syempre wala siyang kakayahan na ganun. That's why ang ginagawa niya is pumupunta siya sa mga bushes. So, ang defense mechanism niya is itong mga spiky stings niya sa katawan na kapag ang animals kinagat ito, maaari silang ma-sting. Okay? So, camels are one of the animals who can easily withstand desert because they have well adapted to this. They are well adapted to this kind of environment for many years, and they need very little water and food and stored fat in their hump to avoid starvation. So sana all may hump. Imagine kapag wala siyang hump, syempre maaring hindi siya makakapag-store ng food, and kapag hindi siya makapag-store ng food and water, maaring hindi siya mag-survive in that particular region. And now after talking about the tropical forest, the desert, and we also have the grassland. Okay, na-discuss ka na to before. Okay, so maaring a grassland is a region where the average annual precipitation is great enough to support grasses. So kapag maraming grass, the grassland na yon. So trees is in few areas, and we have two divisions: the tropical grassland or the savanna and the temperate grassland. Okay, so kapag sinabi nating tropical grassland, we are pertaining to the savanna. Okay, kapag sinabi natin tropical, we have savanna, and kapag temperate here, magdi-discuss natin yan later on. So now let's talk about savanna. So it is found in equatorial and sub-equatorial region, and rainfall is averaging 30 to 50 cubic meter per year.
Okay, the savanna is warm year-round and averaging 24 to 29 degrees Celsius with some seasonal variation. And savanna vegetation is grassland with scattered trees. So kapag nakakita kayo ng area with, of course, na-dominate ng mga grasses at may mga konting mga trees, that is already a type of what they call this, a type of a grassland, particularly savanna. Okay, but of course, kapag sinabi natin savanna, it covers almost half of the surface of the Africa. That's why, di ba, kung gusto nyo mag-savanna, pumunta kayo sa Africa because the climate there is one of the most important factor in creating savanna. Wherein savanna are always found in warm or hot climate where the annual rainfall is from about 50.8 to 127 cubic meter per year, and always found in warm and hot climate region. And take note, class, that fire is an important in maintaining the savanna biomes. Kasi fire is something that will deteriorate or parang kasi kapag tawag nito, kapag magkaroon ng fire, of course yung fire kapag halimbawa ang panahon doon is mainit at nagkaroon ng fire, yung fire ang parang tutupok sa mga grasses. Then kapag umulan ulit, magkakaroon ulit ng tutubo ulit yung mga grasses. That's why paulit-ulit lang na may grasses. Hindi sila masyadong lumalaki. Okay? So, we have here the climatic savanna, which results from a climatic condition, and we have here also the edaphic savanna that are caused by soil conditions that are not entirely maintained by fire. Okay, so kapag climatic savanna, of course, it has something to do with the climatic tawag nito, condition, wherein yung climate kasi parang yung weather condition, it affects the presence of the grassland. As I mentioned earlier, kapag mahaba ang panahon ng ulan or kapag mahaba ang panahon ng araw, of course, walang source of water yung mga grasses, madadry sila. And kapag na-dry sila, of course, mas madali silang matupok na or masunog. And kapag nasunog na sila, kapag umulan ulit, magkakaroon ng regeneration of, what they call this, regeneration or tutubo ulit yung mga grasses natin. Dito naman sa edaphic savanna, of course, soil naman ang problema. Okay? Yung soil, meron siyang kakaunting nutrient level wherein hindi masyadong tumutubo yung mga grasses doon. So, kapag hindi masyadong tumutubo yung mga grasses doon, of course, kakaunti lang din na kapag it also weather conditions also affect this kind of environment kasi maaring kapag mahaba ang panahon tapos kakaunti na lang yung soil nutrient, maaring ang mangyari is mamatay yung mga grasses doon. Okay, and of course these are animals that could be found at savanna. So we have here giraffe, lions, jaguars, zebra, and elephant, and monkeys, and so on and so forth. So now, we also have here the temperate grassland. So temperate grassland are areas of the openly grassy plains that are sparsely populated with trees. Okay, take note that it is a grassy plains that are sparsely populated with trees, and various names of temperate grassland includes pampas, downs, and velds. Okay, velds. So, temperate grasslands vary with seasons, with tornadoes, blizzards, and fire occurring in many temperate grass regions. So, it's because of the temperature condition doon. That's why yung tawag nito, yung fire is one of the most important part in a grassland para at least matupok yung mga grasses din. And of course, dahil din sa temperature, nagkakaroon ng tornado, di ba? And blizzard. And itong mga to is factors that will sustain the biome of the grassland biome. Okay, so why fire is important in grassland biome? So, fire is a natural part of the grassland ecosystem, and it helps maintains the health and vigor of the environment of that particular environment. It warms up the soil and reduces the leaf litter that accumulates each year, allowing sunlight to penetrate. So, warming the soil increases microbial activity, which release nutrients from the decaying plant material that new grasses and flowers may need to grow. As I mentioned earlier, kailangan ng fire para makapag-regenerate ulit yung mga grasses sa grassland. Okay? So, here we have here a sample of how plants or on how grasses will regenerate sa grassland. So, of course, like for example, on October or on May 2, 2013, okay, so masyadong mainit ang panahon, okay, summer season, okay. So, nung June 12, nagkaroon ng sunog. And of course, nung April 30, 2014, nag-regenerate ulit yung mga grasses. So, ganun lang yun. Paulit-ulit na nangyayari to maintain this kind of biomes. Okay? So, take note, class, that in temperate grassland are home to many large and small herbivores. Okay? Katulad ng mga yan. Okay? So, now let's proceed to another biome, which is the taiga. Okay, the taiga or the boreal, or commonly called as coniferous forest. Bakit sinabing coniferous forest, sir? Dahil maraming mga conifers. Okay, maraming mga conifers dito. Okay, kung makikita nyo, ito yung mga conifers. Ang mga conifers, they thrive mostly sa mga malalamig na lugar. Okay, so kung pupunta kayo ng Baguio, di ba, may mga pine trees, and pine trees are considered as conifers. Okay, so take note that the taiga is largest terrestrial biome on Earth. Take note, largest terrestrial biomes. Not grassland, not rainforest, but it's the taiga. Okay, so coniferous forests have long cold long cold winter and short wet summer. So imagine that meron silang long cold winter kasi malapit sila sa northern hemisphere. Okay, kung makikita niyo dito sa picture, okay, so this is a part of Alaska. This is a part of Alaska sa may northern part ng Amerika. So, this is part of Alaska and Canada. Tapos, iikot yan papuntang Russia sa northern part ng, northern part ng Europe. Okay? So, the conifers that inhabit these forests are adapted to snow and periodic drought. So, generally, coniferous forests are home to many birds and mammals. These forests are being logged at a very high rate, and old growth stands of the conifers may soon disappear. So, take note that napakaganda kasi of course, since mas nag-dominate ang ganitong klaseng wood sa northern hemisphere, ito yung mga karaniwan nilang pinuputol. And maaring soon, it will disappear. Okay? So, katulad nga ng kwento ni Alvin and the Chipmunks, di ba? May mga, these are, the Christmas trees are commonly termed as conifers. Okay? So, itong mga Christmas tree na to is pinuputol nila. Okay? Para maging Christmas decoration. So, ito yung mga parang human activity that will affect the environment, particularly the taiga. Okay? So, we have also here, dito natin matatagpuan yung mga brown bears, the bobcat, the coyote, the beaver, the chipmunks, the raccoon, American blackbird, and of course bald bald eagle. So these plants or organisms, these animals rather, are adapted to these kinds of environment. At itong mga to, hindi mo ito makikita sa grasslands or either sa forest or sa desert. Dito lang talaga sila makikita sa taiga. Okay? And here sa taiga, we have here the temperate broadleaf forest. Okay? Napakaganda, di ba? Ang tawag dito is temperate broadleaf forest. So kung makikita nyo sa mga movies na ang setting nila is sa mga ganito, okay, ang tawag doon is temperate broadleaf forest. So it have a very cold winter, hot summer, and considerable precipitation. And a mature temperate broadleaf forest has distinct vertical layer, including a closed canopy, one or two strata of underscore, and a shrub layer, and herbaceous layer. So katulad din siya uh, ng ating tropical rainforest na meron silang stratified part, di ba? Yung emergent part, okay, hanggang sa may baba, which is yung shrub level. Dito naman meron tinatawag na strata. We have the underscore, the shrub layer, and the herbaceous layer. So the dominant deciduous trees in northern hemisphere broadleaf forest drops leaves and becomes dormant in winter. So that's why dito sa part na to, meron tinatawag na may mga 4 seasons, okay? The winter, the summer, the spring. Okay, yung 4 seasons na yon, yun yung parang karaniwang na yun yung seasons dito. That's why ganito yung mga kulay ng mga trees nila. Okay? So take note, class, that in the northern hemisphere, many mammals in this biome hibernate in the winter season. Diba, as I've mentioned earlier, meron silang 4 seasons. Diba? We have the summer, we have the winter, the spring, and so on. So kapag winter season, kailangan nilang mag-hibernate. So ito yung time na matutulog sila ng mahabang panahon. So during summer season, ito naman yung chance nila para makapaghanap ng pagkain at mag-store ng food. Okay? And take note, class, that the human activity impact these biome because humans have logged many temperate broadleaf forests around the world. So maraming mga marami ng mga nasira na broadleaf forest. Okay? So this is a type of a deciduous rainforest wherein nag-grow yung mga ganitong klaseng mga trees. So we have here a maple. So a maple tree. So, meron ba tayong maple tree dito sa Philippines? Wala. Okay? So, sila doon lang sa taiga, nagsitribe yung ganitong klaseng mga trees. We have the oak tree, wala naman tayong oak tree. We have the birch, wala. So, we have the horse chestnut, we have the beech, and of course, we have the ash. So, these trees rather, could be found sa tinatawag nating taiga. Okay? And of course, now, after taiga, meron tayong tinatawag na tundra. Okay? So, sa tundra, it covers large areas of the Arctic, up to 20% of the Earth's land surface. So, tundra is also a biome, and tundra vegetation is mostly herbaceous, consisting of a mixture of lichens, mosses, grasses, forbs, and dwarf shrubs and trees. Okay? So, kung makikita ninyo ito, itong ganitong klaseng environment, that is already a tundra. Okay? So, it is the coldest biome wherein meron tayong tinatawag na permafrost. So, a permafrost is a permanent frozen layer that prevents water infiltration and restrict roots growth. So, ito yung permafrost. Okay? So, ang permafrost, permanently frost na siya, na iced wherein hindi na siya natutunaw. So it prevents infiltration, it prevents water infiltration and restrict root growth. Ito yung part or layer ng soil wherein hindi na parang syempre bakit kaya kakaunti lang ang mga plants na nagtatribe sa ganitong environment kasi yung soil meron tinatawag na permafrost. Kapag may permafrost, hindi na ma-reach ng roots ng soil hindi na ma-reach ng roots yung soil wherein may nakahambalang or may nakaharang na permafrost. That's why hanggang ganito lamang yung mga plants na nagtatribe dito sa klaseng environment na to. Okay? So we have here the alpine tundra. So from the world it said alpine, okay? It is found on high mountain tops at all latitude including the tropics, okay? So kapag alpine tundra, ito yung nandun sa pinakamataas na bahagi ng mountains, okay? So the plants communities in the alpine and arctic tundra are very similar. So katulad nito. So yung mga yon, these are permafrost. Okay, these are permafrost, okay? So and also we have the arctic tundra. The arctic tundra, the winter is long and cold, okay? So kapag Arctic, siyempre matatagpuan sa Arctic part of the Arctic Ocean, okay? So talagang masyado siyang ma-ice, okay? Malamig. So the growing season is very short kasi nga punong-puno ng ice yung kanilang environment. It is large grazing moths, oxen are resident in the Arctic tundra. So while carbon and reindeer are migratory. Okay? So, may mga animals na nagtatribe dito, pero at least, umaalis din sila kasi nga, ganito yung klase ng weather, ganito yung weather condition. Okay? Siyempre, ikaw ba naman yung plants, kung gusto mong mag-absorb ng nutrients sa soil, paano ka makaka-absorb ng nutrients kung may nakaharang na yelo, di ba? So, migratory birds in Arctic tundra as extensive during the summer as nesting ground. Okay, so dito sila nangingitlog during summer season. So, in Arctic tundra is sparsely settled by humans but has recently become the focus of significant mineral and oil extraction. Katulad nga ng nangyari sa history ng tawag nito ng katulad ng nangyari sa history ng Russia at saka Amerika, 'di ba binenta ng Russia yung Alaska, o 'di ba? Na dati ang Alaska kasi pagmamay-ari yan ng Russia. So since nung panahon na yon is parang nahihirapan yung mga Russian na pumunta sa Alaska. Binenta nila ito sa mga Amerika. Not knowing na itong Alaska is isa palang area wherein pwede sila makapag-extract ng minerals and oil. So that's why isang yaman ito ng mga American citizen. Okay? So these are the animals that tribes in the tundra. We have here the polar bear, the wild yak, okay, the snow leopards, the stoat, okay. So, itong mga to, wala namang mga ganito dito sa Pilipinas, okay, di ba? Wala namang mga polar bear, wala namang mga red fox, di ba? Walang mga American pika dito. So, itong mga to, matatagpuan lamang sila sa snowy part ng ating planet, particularly sa tundra, okay? So, that's the tundra. Ito yung mga plants naman doon sa tundra, particularly doon sa may alpine tundra. So we have here cotton plants, okay, the lichens, the caribou moss, okay, we have bearberry, Arctic willow, and Labrador tea. So kung mapapansin nyo, sir, bakit walang puno? Kasi nga, ang puno hindi masyadong nagtatribe doon, okay? Kasi nga, meron tinatawag na permafrost na kapag yung puno is maaring may mga nakapag-tribe na puno, some canopies or mga coniferous trees. Pero generally, ang mas nagdo-dominate kasi na klase ng plants dito is itong mga to. Okay? So, Now, let's move on to the aquatic biome. So, before we proceed to sa aquatic biome, let's review muna yung mga different parts of biomes natin ng terrestrial biome. So, we have forest, we have grassland, we have desert, and we have the tundra. We have the taiga. Okay? So, next we have the aquatic biomes. So, aquatic biomes occupy the largest part of the biosphere. Diba? Ecologists distinguish between freshwater and marine biomes. So, kapag marine biomes, we are pertaining to the oceans and sea on the basis of physical and chemical differences. So, marine biomes generally have salt concentration that average 3%, while freshwater biomes have salt concentration of less than 1%. So, marine biomes covers approximately 75% of the Earth's surface and have enormous effects on the biosphere. And freshwater biomes are closely linked to the soil and biotic component of the terrestrial biomes through which they pass. And most aquatic biomes are physically and chemically stratified. So, yun na. Papasok na tayo sa mundo ng karagatan. So, kung kanina nasa land tayo, papasok na tayo sa mundo ng karagatan, particularly sa freshwater biomes and the marine biomes. Now, let's move. Now, before we proceed with the aquatic biomes, let us first identify the different parts of the aquatic biomes, okay, or the aquatic zones. So, we have here a picture with the different parts. Okay, the first part is the intertidal zone. So, saan ba natin makikita yung intertidal zone? So, ito yung part na yon. Okay, the intertidal zone. So, this is the intertidal zone, particularly, mas malapit siya sa seashore. Okay, so, kapag halimbawa dito yung place na sa mga beaches, yung mga yan yung mga yun yung tinatawag nating intertidal zone. So next we have here the continental shelf. Wherein itong continental shelf na to is parang it's a distance between the intertidal zone going to the deepest part of the ocean. And also we have here the pelagic realm. Okay, so it is also a pelagic zone wherein it is a distance between the intertidal zone to the center of the center of the ocean. Okay, so dito naman kung titignan natin, we have the phonic zone and the aphotic zone. Okay, the photic zone and the photic zone. So kapag sinabi nating photic zone, okay, dito yung part na kung saan nasisinagan ng araw. Okay, wherein dito yung part na may mga ability yung mga plants and animals, particularly the phytoplanktons and zooplanktons, para at least makapag-propagate sila, makapag-generate sila ng energy. Okay, so yung mga plants natin dito, yung mga aquatic plants natin, they have the ability to photosynthesize because they absorb great amount of sunlight because the sunlight penetrates to this part of the ocean. So we have here the aphotic zone, wherein very little light penetrates to the lower aphotic zone. So since very little light lang ang nakakapag-penetrate dito, maaaring konti na lamang yung mga plants na nakakapag-absorb ng sunlight. So, konti na lamang yung mga plants na nag-undergo ng photosynthesis. So, going back, yung sinabi natin nung sinabi ko before that dito nagkakaroon ng tinatawag nating chemosynthesis. Okay? Yes, chemosynthesis. Okay? So, yung chemosynthesis kasi is a process by which plants generate energy in some of the volcanic vents na matatagpuan sa oceans natin. Okay? So, the substrate at the bottom of the aquatic zone is the benthic zone. So, dito yung part na benthic zone. Ito yung deepest part of the ocean. Okay? The benthic part. This zone is made up of sand and sediment that is occupied by communities of organisms called benthos. Okay? So, A major food source of bentos is dead organic material or detritus which range down from the productive surface water of the photic zone. Siyempre, kapag halimbawa may mga namatay dito sa mataas na bahagi ng ocean natin, dito sa may dito sa may photic zone, siyempre, saan ba pupunta yan? So, due to gravity, babagsak yan, unti-unting babagsak hanggang mapunta siya dito sa baba. Okay? And of course, yun na din yung parang source of energy ng mga plants dito. And in aquatic biomes, community distribution is determined by the depth of water, distance from the shore, and open water versus bottom. Of course, syempre kapag dito sa mas mababaw na part, dito mo makita yung mga starfish, mga sea cucumber, mga brittle star, mga kung ano-ano mga clamps, mga tawag nito, mga seashells. Kasi dito sa may malalim na part, dito mo na makikita yung mga blue shark, okay? So, dito na yung mga turtles, dito naman din makikita yung mga sperm whale, kasi hindi naman sila pwedeng mapunta dito, yung mga sperm whale, hindi pwedeng mapunta dito sa may mababaw na part ng ocean, okay? So, in marine communities, phytoplankton, zooplanktons, and many fishes lives in the relative shallow photic zone. Ito yung, since maliliit sila, mas nagtatrad sila sa may shallow part, okay? Sa mas mababaw na part na region. So, kapag katulad ng sinabi ko kanina, kapag namatay sila yung mga magbibigay ng nutrients sa mga animals dito sa may benthic part ng ocean. Wherein, magiging detritus sila, which is magiging food sila ng mga animals or organisms dito. The apoptic zone contains little life, and except for microorganisms and relative sparse populations of the luminescent fishes and invertebrates. Okay, so dito may mga luminescent species. Okay, dito sa taas meron din tayong tinatawag ng bioluminescent species. Ito yung mga makukulay or nagbibigay ng ilaw tuwing gabi. Okay, so dito sa loob ng tawag nito, dito sa loob ng oceans, dito sa pinaka malalim na bahagi ng oceans, meron mga luminescent species. And ang luminescent species to is itong anglerfish, na meron siyang luminescent part dito, wherein ito yung parang defense mechanism niya para at least makakain. So, yung mga plants kasi and animals, pupunta sila sa may maliwanag na part, since yung maliwanag na part na yun is one way nila para makahanap ng food. So, kapag nakarating na sila dito sa may maliwanag na part na to, okay? So, parang yun na yung chance ng anglerfish para kainin sila. Okay? So, that's the anglerfish. So, next here, we have the water temperature. Okay? So, sunlight warms surface water while the deeper water remains cold. That's why malamig ang pinakamalalim na bahagi ng oceans natin. As a result, water temperature in the lakes is stratified, especially in summer and winter. So, in oceans, most lakes and narrow stratums of rapid temperature changes called thermocline. Okay, thermocline separates the more uniformly warm water layer from more uniformly colder, deeper water. So, katulad dito, meron tayong lake dito sa lake park. Okay? So, kapag summer, of course, mas mainit yung part na to, yung Epilimicon. Okay? And dito sa Hypoliminion, I'm so sorry, hindi ko masyado makita. So, dito naman yung mas malamig na part ng lake ng lake during summer. And kapag fall, of course, parang dito na nagiging similar yung tawag nito, yung dito na nagkapare-pareho yung temperature ng ating lake. And kapag spring, ganun din. And kapag winter again, of course, mas malamig naman dun sa top part than sa lower part. Okay? So, that is the temperature. Sabi nga, dito, it is stratified. Okay? Next, there are types of aquatic biomes. Okay, there are broadly two categories of aquatic biomes. So we have here the freshwater biomes and the salt or marine biomes. So here, kapag sinabi nating freshwater is defined as having a low salt concentration less than 1%. So plants and animals in freshwater regions are adjusted to low salt content and would not be able to survive in areas of high salt concentration. So we have here ponds, lakes, streams, and river, and of course wetlands. So these are parts or biomes, okay, or ecosystem under the freshwater biome. So we have ponds. Many ponds are seasonal, lasting just a couple of months. Kasi nga, maaring yung mga fishes na ilalagay mo dyan is magta-thrive lang for a particular short period of time. Katulad ng tilapia. Diba? Ang tilapia, maaari mo lang siyang palakihin by January. Then, by July. Halimbawa, January, February, March, April, May, June. Aanihin mo na sila. So, afterwards, wala na ulit interaction doon. Wala nang mga tilapia doon. Then, after, kapag ka naman August, September, October, pwede ka na ulit maglagay ng tilapia. So that is pond. So, we have here lakes. Lakes exist for hundreds of years and more and vary greatly in oxygen and nutrient content. So, a very good lake is yung Taal Lake na matatagpuan sa Batangas, okay? Malapit sa Cavite, sa may Tagaytay City, 'di ba? So, yung lake na yun is parang nabuo dahil na rin sa volcanic eruption, 'di ba? Merong conspiracy before ang mga scientists na yung Taal volcano is a large volcano, but since isa siyang active volcano and maraming eruption na nangyari, parang kung like structure niya is nawasak at naging caldera. Isa na siyang malaking caldera. Okay? So, sa lakes, meron tayong tinatawag na zone. Okay? We have here the littoral zone, the limnetic, and the profundal. Kapag littoral zone, katulad lang, parang sa ocean, meron siyang intertidal. Dito, littoral, and it is the shallow and well-light water close to the shore. So, ito yung mga littoral zone. Okay? So, limnetic is the open surface of the water. So, ito yung open surface of the water. And the profundal is the deepest part. So, para siyang bentic sa naman kapag ocean ang pinag-uusapan natin. Okay? So, that is littoral, limnetic, and profundal. Kapag littoral, near the shallow or near the shore. Kapag limnetic, ito yung naaarawan. And the profundal, ito yung deepest part of the lake. So, talking about lakes, we have different types of lakes. So, we have here the oligotrophic lake. When we say oligotrophic, they are deep. So, they are deep lake. They are nutrient poor, oxygen rich, and contains little life. Since nutrient poor siya, walang masyadong nagte-thrive na plants. Okay? What I mean is, walang masyadong mga algae, ganon. Okay? Na nagte-thrive. Wherein, kapag walang masyadong algae or mga plants, walang masyadong mga animals. Okay? That is oligotrophic lake. So, kapag naman meron tayong tinatawag na eutrophic lake. Okay? Parang ito yung product ng eutrophication. They are shallow, they are nutrient rich, and oxygen poor. So, bakit oxygen poor? Kasi nga, yung oxygen is nagagamit ng mga algae. Okay? Nagagamit ng mga microorganisms in order to decompose these yung mga dead matters. Okay? That is eutrophic lake. So, makikita nyo, maraming mga sediments dito. Ito yung mga sediments na nag-build up. So, kapag maraming mga sediments na nag-build up, magiging nutrient rich yung lake natin. So, katulad dun sa kapag kasi maraming nutrient ang isang bodies of water, maraming dadaming plants, di ba? Dadami ang plants, okay? So, halimbawa, magkakaroon ng maraming water lily, dadami yung mga kangkong, okay? So, wherein kapag dumami yung kangkong, of course, parang magkaroon ng parang magkaroon ng invasion of species, wherein kapag na-invade na yung isang particular land, maaring maraming mga animals and plants ang maapektuhan at maaari silang mamatay. Okay? So, we have also here wetlands. Wetlands are covered with sufficient water to support aquatic plants, and they can be saturated or periodically flooded. Wetlands include marshes, bogs, and swamps. Okay, so they are among the most productive biomes on Earth and home for the diverse community of invertebrates and birds. Wetlands have high capacity to filter dissolved nutrients and chemical pollutants. And again, humans have destroyed many wetlands, but some are now protected. So, a part of the wetland or one type of a wetland is a marshes. Okay, a marshes is a wetland that is dominated by herbaceous rather than woody plants. So kapag ang isang place is marami lang siyang mga herbs, parang maraming mga shrubs na mamasa-masa, that is already a marsh. Okay, so marshes can be often found in the edge of the lakes and streams where they form transition between the aquatic and terrestrial ecosystem. So they are often dominated by grasses, rushes, and reeds. So both saltwater and freshwater tidal marshes serves many important functions. So they buffer stormy seas, slow shoreline erosion, and offer shelter and nesting sites for migratory water birds, and absorbs excess nutrients that would lower oxygen levels in the sea and harm wildlife. So, di ba, napakagaling naman ng kanilang function na kapag halimbawa may storm, kapag may matataas na alon, they are actually one that performs or that protects the seashore para hindi maiagos yung mga soil or yung mga mineral, yung mga hindi mag-erode yung soil dun sa part ng intertidal zone, or yes, tama. Okay, so these are the marshes. Okay, so marshes are salt, the salt marshes or the coastal marshes are wetlands that are drained by tides. Okay, they are ecologically guardians of the coast and buffer stormy seas. So they serve as nursing ground for young marine life and supports different species of animals such as shrimps, shellfish, and various grasses, offering shelters and nesting sites for several species of migratory waterfowl. So this is a sample of the wetland. Since kapag wetland, syempre basa ang environment. Kapag basa ang environment at walang puno, that is already marshes. Okay? So kapag naman, ayan, walang masyadong puno, okay, that is what marshes. Okay, so it acts as a natural filter. Okay, filter out nutrients such as nitrogen and phosphorus that threatens the river and lake. Take note that nitrogen and phosphorus are what? They are deadly. Na kapag hindi na-fix yung nitrogen at yung phosphorus, hindi naging phosphate, okay, maaaring deadly siya kapag in contact with humans. So wet plants take up excess nutrients and convert it to less harmful forms, and over time nutrients are recycled within wetlands. And unfortunately, freshwater marshes have suffered major agreed losses to human development. Some have degraded by excessive deposit of nutrients and sediments from construction and farming. That's why since nagkaroon ng ganong eksena or case, ang naging lagay nun is nagkaroon ng water pollution. And of course, we have swamps. Kapag swamps naman, kabaliktaran ng marshes, so maraming mga puno, pero mamasa-masa pa rin yung part na ito. So, swamps is a wetland that is in forest. Okay, swamps are considered to be transition zone between both land and water, play important role in creating these environments. Other swamps occur in shores of the large lake, and swamps also protect coastal areas from the storm surge that can wash away fragile coastline. That's what yung mentioned earlier. And swamps ecosystem acts as a water treatment plant, filtering waste and purifying water naturally. Diba? Napakaganda ng kanyang function. Okay? So, we have also here a bogland. A bogland is a type of freshwater wetlands that accumulates peat. Okay, that accumulates peat, a deposit of dead plants and materials, often mosses, and majority cases of sphagnum moss. So ito yon. This is a bogland. Okay, it is oxygen poor because of course, kapag oxygen poor, maraming mga plants and nutrient poor. Okay, making biodiversity much lower than in a wetlands ecosystem. So few plants can survive in such acidic waterlogged soil. So parang dito napupunta yung mga waste product ng forest natin. Okay? So we have also streams and rivers. They are bodies of water of moving direction continuously to one direction, papuntang oceans. And headwaters are cold, clear, turbulent, and swift. They carry little sediments and relatively few mineral nutrients. As water travels downstream, it picks up oxygen and nutrients on the way, di ba? That's why minsan kapag yung mga nutrient, ito yung parang one of the process of the weathering, wherein yung mga phosphate na nanggaling sa yung mga nutrients coming from the sun na napunta sa mga mountains natin, iwa-wash out siya ng rain, mapupunta sa mga rivers, pupunta sa oceans, and later on babalik ulit sa mountains through the precipitation. Okay, so we have streams. Streams is a body of water with surface water flowing. So ito yung mga streams is parang ito yung mga napupuntahan minsan natin na may mga waterfalls, di ba? So of course kapag sinabi natin river, it is a wide natural streams of fresh water that flows into the oceans or other large body of water. So that is river. So this is a river anatomy. So meron tayong tinatawag na tributaries. Yung mga tributaries na yun, that could be of course, yung mga iba't ibang pinanggagalingan ng tubig, such as creeks, streams, and so on and so forth. And from the river source, pupunta sa river channel. Okay? Then from the river channel, pupunta sa river bank to the mouth of the ocean. So, that is the anatomy of the river. Okay? So, take note that nutrient content is largely determined by the terrain and the vegetation of the area. Okay, so many streams and rivers have been polluted by humans, degrading water quality and killing aquatic organisms. That leads to water pollution. And of course, damming or flood control impairs the natural functioning of the streams and river and threatens the migratory species such as salmon. So, itong salmon kasi parang itong salmon nagre-reproduce siya sa tinatawag nating brackish water. Ang brackish water is parang it's a mixture of the salt water and the fresh water. So yung salmon pumunta mag-breed sa brackish of water. Pero dahil sa dam, kapag ka nag-create na sila ng dam, okay? Syempre yung dam parang iniiba niya yung water flow ng rivers, okay, ng brackish water. So kapag yung mga salmon is yun kasi yung indicator nila para makabalik sa kanilang breeding ground, which is the brackish water. So kapag halimbawa ang isang place is nag-construct sila ng dam, may iba yung water flow. Maaring yung water flow is hindi na yung ganong kalakas. So that's why maraming hindi nakababalik na salmon sa kanilang breeding ground at hindi na sila nakakapag-breed. That's why mga ibang salmon is nawawala na, nagde-decrease yung population nila at sa ibang location na sila nag-breed. Okay, that is one effect that the humans activity really affect the environment. So next, we have here the marine biomes. So in marine biomes, we have the oceans, coral reefs, and estuaries. So marine biomes covers about 3/4 or 75% of the Earth's surface. So marine algae supplies much of the world oxygen's supply and take in a huge amount of atmospheric carbon dioxide. So ibig sabihin yan, hindi lang tayo nagre-rely sa mga puno. Okay? The marine environment is a great contributor of the oxygen that is needed by the organisms. So, the evaporation of the seawater provides rainwater for the land. So, kailangan kasi mag-evaporate ang seawater. Kasi kapag walang evaporation, walang condensation. And kapag walang condensation, walang precipitation. Okay? So, we have here the estuaries. Estuaries are areas of transition between rivers and sea. Okay? Parang dito na kasi yung tinatawag nating brackish water. Okay? Ito yung sinasabi ko kaninang estuary. So, ang estuary, the salinity of these areas can vary greatly. Kasi nga parang dito nagtatagpo yung fresh water and marine water natin. So estuaries have complex flow patterns with network tidal channel, island and leaves and mudflats. So they support an abundance of fish and invertebrate species. Invertebrate species are crucial feeding areas for many species of water flow. So ibig sabihin, maraming mga nagte-thrive ditong mga organisms such as yung salmon na nabanggit ko kanina, na dito sila nagbe-breed, 'di ba? So bakit kaya yung salmon doon nagbe-breed sa may estuary? Kasi parang gusto niyang itago yung kanyang itlog kapag sa karagatan. Parang mas safe yung mga itlog ng salmon sa estuary kasi yung mga ibang fishes kapag mangingitlog siya sa may oceans, maaring kainin yung itlog niya ng ibang mga animals. That's why yung salmon, ipinupunta niya yung mga itlog niya sa mga estuaries. Okay? So, we have oceans. Ocean is the largest of all ecosystem. And we have here the large body of water that dominates the Earth's surface. Meron tayong intertidal, the pelagic zone, the benthic, and the abyssal. Okay? Yung abyssal hindi ko nabanggit kanina. So, let's talk about the intertidal. So, the intertidal zone, in marine biome, it is periodically submerged and exposed to tides. Okay? Ito yung mga malapit sa seashore. The upper intertidal zone experiences longer exposure to air and greatly variation in salinity and temperature that the lower intertidal areas. So many organisms live only on a particular stratum of the intertidal zone. So ano nga ba yung mga organisms na yun? We have starfishes, seashore, sea urchin, and so on and so forth. Okay? So we have here intertidal. Okay? So this is the intertidal zone. Maraming mga animals na nagtatribe such as crabs, we have barnacles, we have limpets, we have mussels, and sea anemones, di ba? So that's the intertidal zone. So we have here na experience natin yung low tide and high tide. So that is the intertidal zone. So kapag nakikita ninyo itong ganito, nabasa yung land part ng intertidal zone, that is naka-high tide siya. Okay? Pero kapag naka-expose yung mga animals na yan, that is low. Okay, so we have here the pelagic zone. So when we say pelagic zone, it is the open blue water mixed with wind-driven oceanic current. So the surface waters of the temperate oceans turn over during fall through spring. So the open ocean has high oxygen levels and low nutrient levels. So these volumes covered 70% of the Earth's surface and has an average depth of 4,000 meters. So ito yung parang nasisinagan ng araw pero hindi masyadong malalim na part ng ocean. So that is the pelagic zone. So ito naman is yung pinakamalalim, the marine benthic zone. So it consists of the seafloor below the surface water of the coastal or the neritic zone and the offshore of the pelagic zone. So most of the ocean's benthic zone receives no sunlight. So organisms in the very deep abyssal zones are adapted to continuous cold, about 3 degrees Celsius and extremely high pressure. So, kung nabalitaan nyo yung submersible na bumisita or na pumunta malapit sa may tawag nito, sa Titanic wreckage. So, bakit kaya? Ano yung factor kung bakit bigla silang nawala? It's because the high pressure and continuous cold, diba? Sa marine benthic zone, there is a unique assemblage of organisms that are associated with deep sea hydrothermal vents of volcanic origin in the mid-ocean regions. So these are some of the organisms that we could find in the benthic zone. So we have here a coral reef ecosystem. So when we say coral reef ecosystem, it is widely distributed with warm, shallow waters and barriers along continents, fringing islands, and atolls. So coral reefs are dominant organisms wherein they are living organisms, di ba? And we have here the hermatypic. When we say hermatypic or hermatypic, these are coral species that build reefs, also called hard coral because they extract calcium carbonate from the sea water. And polyp is an individual corals. So, ito mga corals nito, mayroon silang mga polyp. So, they are individual they are individual coral. So, when we say coral reef, they are limited to the photic zone of the stable trophic marine environment with high water clarity. They are found at the temperatures between 18 degrees Celsius and 30 degrees Celsius. So, nasisinagan pa rin sila ng araw. So, they are formed by the calcium carbonate skeleton of the coral animals. So, coral reefs are home to the very diverse assortment of vertebrates and invertebrates. So, dito mo matatagpuan yung mga squid, okay, yung mga sea sponge, and so on and so forth. So, so the question here is, how do coral reefs obtain nutrient? So, kung makikita ninyo dito, meron silang tinatawag na mouth. Okay, they are also animals kasi meron silang mouth. So, meron silang tinatawag na mouth wherein itong mouth na to, parang dito nila ini-ingest yung mga kinakain nilang yung mga pagkain nila. So, reef waters tend to be nutritionally poor because coral obtains nutrients through the algae via photosynthesis and extending tentacles to obtain planktons from the water. So, kung titignan niyo dito, meron silang mga cells. Okay? Meron silang mga tinatawag na zooxanthellae. So, ito yung mga zooxanthellae, ito yung mga part ng coral reef na parang nag-absorb ng nutrients sa mga algae. So, corals are animals and they are invertebrates. So, bakit invertebrates? Kasi nga, they do not have any backbone. Okay? So, take note that collecting of coral skeleton and overfishing for food and aquarium trade have reduced populations of coral reefs and free fishes. So kung makikita ninyo dito, nagkaroon ng degradation of coral reefs, di ba? Degradation of corals wherein namatay yung mga corals dahil wala na silang masyadong pagkain. So, dahil na din sa mga human activities such as pollution, overfishing, and so on and so forth. So, global warming and pollution contribute to large scale of coral mortality. So, that's why maraming mga coral reefs ang namamatay dahil sa global warming because they are not adapted to this kind or to this environment wherein kapag hindi sila adapted, talking about natural selection, maaari silang mamatay. Okay? So, take note that we share the world with many other species of plants and animals. So, let us protect and conserve our biomes. So, that is the end of the lecture. And thank you very much everyone for listening to this lecture.